Hi guys, welcome to my pantry. I don't share a ton down here, but today I have some organizing to do. I just also need to clean up in here. We've got some potatoes and onions that desperately need to be dealt with. And I also just want to go through what we still have left on the pantry shelf and kind of take inventory and figure out what I need to plan on canning more of this year. There are definitely some staples that we ran out of, and then some things that I can kind of lay off a little bit that I did a ton of last year. So we're gonna go through all that together and make a little bit of a game plan. I keep getting asked by you guys how the garden is doing. At this point, for us, it is non-existent. We're running a little bit behind. And this last month has just been so busy that I didn't get to starting some of the seeds that I wanted to. I have the bulk of them going, but I'm definitely going to need to pick up some stuff from the nursery. So this way, with going through all of this, I can kind of adjust that list as needed. All right, it's always kind of tricky to figure out setting up a tripod in here. This room is not massive and we pack a lot in here. I also have boxes of jars on the floor that I need to deal with today. So we're gonna start out with the shelving behind me. This is where I keep the bulk of our pressure canned goods. So you're gonna see things like meat and broth, shelf stable meals, soup, beans, and then our vegetables. Now, my main focus today is going to be sorting through the vegetables that we have left. It isn't a ton. Well, you'll see we have lots of green beans left, but there isn't a huge variety. But the broth, meat, beans, any shelf-stable meals, that is stuff that I typically can in the winter. That way, I don't have to deal with it when we are in the thick of preserving season. It's just not as urgent. So as I'm going through all of my jars on these shelves, I'm just checking the seals as well, just to make sure that I don't have any jars that have lost their seal and are sitting on the shelf spoiling. So far, everything is looking good. You guys know how much I love my 4 jars canning lids. They really do hold up so well. Now, for vegetables, I've got some canned potatoes left on the shelf, just I think 9 quarts, and that is something that I like to do in the fall a little bit of, and then I also like to do some just as the potatoes are starting to sprout. So that'll be it. I won't do any more canned potatoes until we are digging up potatoes later this year. One of my big focuses last year was on canning green beans, and I definitely did more than needed. I think I did close to 100 pints of them. We have 48 pints left, so I'm sure that I will still can some this year, just in case next year, you never know what's happening. We're not able to get to as many. I'm always going to do some, but I don't need to make as much of a focus on it. The bulk of what I have left for canned vegetables is definitely green beans, but I do have a handful of canned beets and canned carrots as well. Those are not necessarily my favorite. I think I'll always have a little bit on the shelf. They're just a great kind of fast food option. I like having them there. You just have to open the jar, drain them off, and heat them in a cast iron skillet. But they're not my go-to. We definitely prefer the green beans, and I think it has to do with the variety. I'll leave that information in the description box down below. They're called Seychelles. They're my favorite for preserving. But I think that for the bulk of carrots and beets, I'm just going to continue storing them either in the fridge or, of course, if you've got a root cellar, that would be even better. So as I'm going through the shelves, I've just got myself a notepad, and I'm also making note of what I need to include in my next bulk foods order. I am definitely overdue for that, and I want to get a bunch of dry beans. Pinto beans, black beans, kidney beans, and chickpeas are what we use the most of, and we do not have a whole lot of beans on the shelf right now, so that would be a good thing for me to do a big batch of before we get into preserving season and just busy time outside with the garden. So I'll definitely be doing more of that. We have quite a few jars of my home canned hummus in a jar. I have a video on that here on my page. I'll share that in the description box down below. Super easy to do, and then you can just dump it and you've basically got instant hummus. You just need to blend it up with a couple other ingredients. Super simple to do. But I do need some just plain chickpeas on the pantry shelf as well. I feel like tomato products are always a huge focus of what I can, but last year I kind of swung in the opposite direction. So I had been doing a ton of tomato sauce, pizza sauce, and not a ton of diced tomatoes. So last year I did a ton more diced tomatoes, which are great to have on the shelf, but because of that, I ended up doing less sauce, and I need to do a little bit less diced tomatoes this year. We had quite a bit of pizza sauce and tomato sauce last year left over from the previous year, so I need to go back and take a look at my notes and kind of do somewhere in between what I had done in, I guess, 2023 versus 2024, and do a little bit less than 2023, but a little bit more than 2024. Now, I have salsa on the top shelf, and this year my big focus is going to be on our roasted tomato salsa. We still have a little bit left over from last year, but I'd like to have the pantry stocked up on it. I feel like at this point I'm kind of trying to save what we have. We do have a variety of other salsas that I love as well, but our roasted tomato salsa is just kind of our go-to. Tomato jam is something that I absolutely do not need to make any of this year. We've still got quite a bit left, and I just don't go through it quite as quickly as I expect to. I love it on eggs, it's great on burgers as well, but just not something that we're using every single day. I've got a good amount of hot sauce that I made with Sugar Rush peach hot peppers and peaches. It is awesome, but again, probably not something that I need to do this year. If I do more hot sauce this year, it'll definitely be more of a traditional hot sauce to just kind of expand the variety that we have on the shelf. I've got a couple jars of rhubarb barbecue sauce. We'll probably end up doing a little bit more of that. Jar of peach barbecue sauce left, and apricot barbecue sauce. We don't use a ton of barbecue sauce, so it's not something that I'm really needing to stock up on. And then we have some other condiments, so plum sauce and Thai chutney. The Thai chutney is good. It's from the All New Ball Book, but it's not something that I will likely make again, or if I did, I would do it in half-pint jars or even quarter-pint jars, because I did them in pint jars. I think I was just running low on smaller jars, and we do not go through that much if I open a jar. Tons of relish left. I really do not need to make relish, but it's what I make when I've got pickling cucumbers that have gotten too big. So we use it in things like tuna salad, egg salad, but I really do not need to make a whole lot more. Honestly, we'd probably be good with what we have here for the next couple years. I've got 4 jars of cowboy candy, definitely something that I want to do lots more of this year. I feel like at this point I'm trying to save it a little bit. I also did can up the leftover brine from the cowboy candy. That is good if you want to slow cook a pork roast. I just have not done that in a while, so maybe we'll use that as a bit of a marinade. And we've got, let's see, 9 jars of pickled jalapenos. Pickled jalapenos are my favorite. I will definitely be doing lots more of those. You just can't go wrong with having lots of those on the shelf. So these are the last couple shelves that I'm going to go through. The rest is bulk food storage, and that is something, it's a task for another day, basically. So on my left here, I have some of our dehydrated foods. My main focus with dehydrating is our fruits. So we have tons of plums and apples here on our property, and I basically just have both dehydrators running as much as I can throughout the fall, and we'll get as much of the plums and apples dehydrated and onto the shelf that we can. I'll do some herbs and stuff. Some of that stuff I won't necessarily dry in the dehydrator, but that is just more so as much as I can get done. I don't have as much of a game plan for it. Now on these shelves, the bulk of what I have are jams, simple syrups, we have our canned fruit here, and then canned pickles below. Simple syrups and jams are just kind of fun things to can. Obviously, they're not something that we're eating on a day-to-day basis. I love canning jam, and I do not get through a whole lot. So it's something that we end up gifting quite a bit, and I really need to pare back on how much I make. I say that every single year. The ones that we typically use more of are things like my plum and jalapeno jam, and that is something that we would use on like our charcuterie board. I did not can any peaches last year, so we are running low on them. They are Talon's favorite. I do not particularly love canning them. I just find them to be kind of a pain to do, but definitely worthwhile to have fresh Okanagan peaches on the pantry shelf. For pickles, we will definitely be doing lots more pickled peppers. As I mentioned, I just love them. I, a couple years ago, also did some pickled coleslaw, and For a while, it just wasn't getting used on our pantry shelf, but I found that I really like it on fish tacos, and then I also like it on rice bowls. We've got a restaurant that's local to us that does rice bowls that have braised cabbage on top, and that is a really great kind of substitution for that, and really quick to obviously open up a jar. I'm gonna do lots of spicy canned beans this year. They are a favorite of mine, and with how many green beans we have on the shelf, I can definitely pickle some of those instead. Pickled beets are probably something I won't do any of this year. We just don't get through them. I didn't love the last recipe that I made of them. I found the brine to be just a little bit too spiced, but I find if I drain off the jar and rinse it a little bit, I can add a little bit of olive oil, we'll do feta cheese, and kind of make a beet salad with it. So I have gone through all of the shelves, kind of made notes on what I want to adjust for this year's garden season, and all that I have left to do down here is a little bit of cleanup. The bulk of my canning jars, you can't see it because they're on the upper shelves for the most part, but I store my canning jars upside down on the shelves kind of as I pull things off typically. I do have some that either don't fit or that I just never got around to putting up there in my boxes from the canning jars. However, I tend to get rid of most boxes, so I don't have a whole lot of those. So I just want to get those cleaned up a little bit. I have some potatoes that have sprouted quite a bit. I'm not too worried about it. There's not a whole lot that actually went to waste. Those were all fingerling potatoes, and they do, I find, just not last quite as long. So I'm going to bring those upstairs, sort through them, and some of it's just going to be compost. Some we will use as seed potato. I also have just a little bit of onions left from last year's garden, and most of them are pretty tiny. I kept saying that I needed to use up the tiny ones first, and in practice I didn't actually do that. So I'm going to pull those upstairs, salvage what I can, but some of those are just going to be compost as well. That's pretty much all I wanted to do down here today, just kind of take stock of what we've got on the shelf, clean up a little bit. I do also have a batch of mead that I made in the fall that I want to age a little bit longer, so I'm going to get that put away as well, and that is pretty much it. Thanks for joining me in my pantry today. I'm really looking forward to another garden season, lots of preserving, and I'll be sure to share all of that with you guys.